Okay, another session, CCNA 3, Module 14, Network Automation. This one is very tricky because it involves probably basics of programming, which as a student I did not like that much. But I think it's quite interesting and it's something that you probably need to look at as you go deep into networking. Right, so in this course, in this module, we're going to explain how network automation is enabled through RESTful APIs and configuration management tools. And basically, we'll describe what automation is. We'll be looking at a couple of data formats, JSON, XML, and YAML. Then we'll define an API and explain how APIs work, especially in network automation. Then explain how REST enables computer-to-computer communications. Then we'll look at and compare the configuration management tools, Puppet, Chef, Ansible, and SaltShake. Lastly, we'll look at what Cisco is doing in the automation scene with IBM and Cisco DNA Center. Right, to go into this quick automation overview, I think it will be very important by understanding what automation is to begin with. And automation basically refers to the use of technology to perform tasks that were previously being performed by humans, but you remove that human or manual intervention and you apply systems that uses technology to do that. Basically, that is automation. And examples, I think I can think of very simple examples like a light switching on and off. We have those lights that we have, which senses if there is that much light intensity, Zwagana ripple outside is off. And when that intensity gets low, a light generator on. So that is basically automation instead of having a switch on and off. So automation can be that simple to right now we have automation. I think huge industries, they have automation. For example, the car manufacturing industry. I don't think there is much manual intervention, human intervention there. There are machines which are doing everything. And basically, that is what automation is. Now, switching to networking, we now also have automation networking because instead of having administrators, humans basically, configuring devices one by one in a huge network, in an enterprise network, you probably have 1,000 devices, right? And will it be possible to manually configure all those devices? That's one. And how perfect will you have to be? Port about my IP address or even a tip-up on my host name, something might go wrong because of manually configuring things. That's the reason why we have network automation. So network automation, it makes uses of tech. It makes use of tech to remove human intervention since everything is read via the program. And the benefits that come with that, uh, in general, machines can work 24 hours a day without breaks, resulting in greater output, obviously. Machines provide a more uniform product, less errors. Machines have less errors compared to humans. Question mark there. Automation allows the collection of vast amounts of data that can quickly be analyzed to provide information which can help guide and innovate a process. They can be used in dangerous conditions, mining, firefighting, etc., etc. Under certain circumstances, smart devices can alter their behavior, reducing energy usage, make use of medical diagnosis, and improve automobile driving safety. So that is in general. But if we go to networking, I think some of the benefits obviously reduce human errors, typos. typos, wrong configuration IP addresses that can be reduced with introduction of network automation. Right. My networks also becomes more scalable. It becomes much easier to scale because basa riri kuitwa probably nemunhu one 3 months yese muchiita setup a network is probably being done in a day via network automation. So it becomes much, much more easier to scale a network. If you want to deploy or make network changes, it's much easier that way. Then, even in terms of standardization, I think when we began IP addressing, there was a thing where my gateways were saying, my gateways ngatise ma-first addresses, probably ma-SVIs ngatise ma-second addresses. Then for some other things, probably there's what my last addresses. That is sort of a standard. In a network,
That is
pakaita engineer anouya achitaura kuti ma-gateways ese ane ma-first addresses. Then engineer akabviswa pabasa pakauya mumwe ouya kuti ma-gateways ngaiswe ma-last addresses. Pouya mumwe anongoisa ma-random IP addresses pama-gateways. That distortion pama standard, it becomes very difficult to troubleshoot. So if ma-gateways edu akaita problem, kana pane a standard yatinoziva kudhara, it becomes very easy to troubleshoot because rules that ma-gateways ese ma-addresses ma-first addresses. But pakaitika those changes, it becomes very difficult. But with network automation, it's very easy to maintain those standards because a program didn't get all the work instead of individuals or human intervention. Uh, and overall, I think with network automation, we have improved efficiency. Even cost of operating a network becomes much easier, which is a plus for my companies because data and right. Thinking devices. Many devices now incorporate smart technology to help to govern their behavior. This can be as simple as smart appliance lowering its power consumption during periods of peak demand or as complex as a self-driving car. In order for devices to think, they need to be programmed using network automation. Right. When we talk of smart devices, basically the definition is a bit tricky. It depends on where you are. When we talk of smart devices, for me, it's basically a device that can collect information from its environment, then be able to use that information to improve probably how it works, how it performs, right? It collects information, not only collects, but uses that information. So we have devices which collect information and changes are made depending on that information. And then there are devices which are intelligent enough to use that information to improve how it works. So in the world yatorarama measures, I think we have smart devices. For example, yandatotaura iyo yema-solar lights, right? Kana zuva risipo is off, kana zuva rapo is on. That might just be automation, right? Kana takutaura zve-smart device, it's using all the factors around that environment to make my decisions. I think with an element the artificial intelligence being added as well, it will be able to think on its own. Instead of just being automated, it's now thinking on its own. So, like I was saying, definition is smart device is a bit in the gray area because of it depends on which area or reaching. To others, automation might mean smart. To others, no. Automation plus artificial intelligence, that might mean smart as well. But I think this is not the topic of the day. Thinking devices. Let's go. Data formats. Data formats are simply a way of storing simply a way to store and exchange data in a structured format. One such format is HTML, which is a standard markup language for describing the structure of web pages. Right. When we talk of data formats, I think basically this is a way of representing or a way which computers interpret information. That is a data format. So in the same way we have, if I have an image, and if I say the format is JPEG, that is the format which represents an image. JPEG, I think with JPEG and of PNG. The same way with videos, we have MP4s. That is the format. That is the data format. We have my MP3s for audio. For text, which can be interpreted by computers, we have those three data formats. JavaScript, object notation, JSON. Then we have XML and YAML. YAML and markup language, whatever that means. So we have those three data formats. And the data format is selected. The data format that is selected will depend on the format that is used by the application, tool, or a script that you're using. Many systems will be able to support more than one data format. Right, these data formats, they have a set of characteristics which I think will be very important. Number one, the data is structured, meaning it is organized and well-defined. It has a structure. It's not a random A, B, C, D kind of a thing. It is organized. All right, that's one. Two, we have what we call objects. I think as we go with the slides, we'll define what an object is. And they are represented by either it can be a character, it can be a string, it can be a number. I know of a Boolean. Yeah, so string, number, Boolean, character. I think there is a new now value as well. Then lastly, one of the characteristics, we have what we call data serialization, right? And this means that the data can be converted into a format that can be stored in a file. So the data can be stored as a file. It can also be transmitted. That same data, it can be transmitted over a network, and it can be reconstructed by different applications. So you see data will be exchanged between probably two computers with different applications, different softwares. So when it is being transmitted, it will be changed. The formats will be changed. And with data serialization, it means when that change is being made, the data can be reconstructed by a different application and be understood by a different software as well. Right. Data format rules. Rules and structures. Data formats have rules and structures similar to what we have with programming and written languages. Each data format will have a specific characteristics. So these are some of the rules as we will go. I think the one we will start with are these brackets right here. I'm not sure what's the name for those brackets. With JSON, for example, that will signify the beginning of an object, all right? Then we have these brackets here used for lists or arrays. We have a question, braces, they're called braces. Thank you. They're called braces, right? So it's a rule. If you are starting an object, you start with this, all right? And you close with this. And in between here, you have your variables, right? And this defines what we call an object. It's a rule, right? Then you see we have white spaces, which sometimes can be ignored, sometimes cannot be ignored. We also have indentation. If it's not ignored, it's called indentation. Then we have quotes. For example, if I want to have a string, I use quotes, right? And a variable, it probably start with, this is what we call here, we'll call it a key. and this is a value. I think with other programming languages, they're called a variable, an identifier. Then this is the value. So in this example, I have my identifier name. And what is my name? My name is Silence. It's in quotes because it's a string. Like I said, with network automation and all these data formats, a basic understanding of programming will be very important. Right. So with the rules, we have quotes, we have commas. At the end of each key pair value, you have a comma separating a key pair value and more. Objects are represented. Objects are represented as characters, strings, lists, arrays. We'll discuss those as we go. Key pair values, how key pair values are represented. Okay, key pair values, I just gave an example. Name, silence, that is a key pair value. In programming, it's a variable, right? The key is usually on the left side and it identifies or describes the data. The value on the right is the data itself and can be a character, string, number, list, or another type of data. So these are some of the rules that we'll be using as we go. All right, comparing data formats. So these are the three data formats that we introduced: JSON, YAML, and XML. And it's showing, I think there was there was a request for longitude position, for a position. I'm not so sure of what position. So there was a request made for a position, let's say a position where is Zimbabwe. And this is the position where Zimbabwe is. The response after a request. And the response is given in these three data formats. So I think what we want to take note of are three different representations of the same information, but using different data formats. With JSON, I think take note of these quotes, some quotes, some commas to separate my data, my key pair values. These brackets to open an object. Then with YAML, Panama brackets, Panama codes, but it's almost the same presentation. Yeah, JSON, YAML, zvakatofanana. But there are no codes, there are no brackets, right? Then with this one is tricky on the eye, right? But as a computer language, it's one of the easiest. But to us humans, it's very tricky, right? So this one, this acknowledge my tags, that is XML. It uses my tags. The information is still the same, but the representation, how we read as humans, is a bit different. So CCNA, knowledge basically, is to know the difference between these type of languages, these types of data formats. Some of the questions you'll be getting, you are just given this, you are given a script like this one, and you are asked, which type of format is that? It's not expected of you to see how to write a complete script, represent using a data format really specific. It's not expected of you to do that, but you need to know using my syntax, the rules, my brackets, and my braces, my commas, my quotation marks, using all that information to identify which type of data format is being used. So it's very easy. Ukaona aya matags is definitely XML. XML format. Ukaona pasina kana comma, pasina kana ma quotes, that is YAML for you. Ukaona pane ma quotes, pane ma comma, pane ma braces, then that is JSON format. Right, let's continue. Now, we're going to define the JSON data format. JSON is a human-readable data format used by applications for storing, transferring, and reading data. It is a very, very popular format used by web services and APIs to provide public data. This is because it is used to parse and can be used with most modern programming languages. and that is including Python. Right. So JSON, I think it is imported directly from JavaScript. JSON, if you are familiar with programming languages, it is imported directly from JavaScript. And that is the reason why it is very popular in the most popular used format for web services. Because I think web services, websites, and JavaScript very much related. All right, compare iOS output above to the output in JSON format. So here we have, I think you are familiar with this. If I go and say, uh, which show command is that one? Giga Ethernet description. That's probably showrun. I can see that information from showrun. All right. This is a showrun information converted to JSON. How do you convert it to JSON? All right. You can see here, I have the name of my interface. So I'm going to convert this to JSON data format. I have the name of the interface. Take note of the key pair values. This is my key identifier name, which is unique within an object, by the way. If I have this name, I'll never have another name in this same object. Right? And the name is Ethernet. The description, wide area network, is just information here. All right, enabled true. The interface is up. And that is another type of value that we have, Boolean. Maybe if I can define Boolean, a data type, true or false. In networking, we have an enabled interface, disabled interface, almost the same thing. So if we say an interface is enabled, that is true. In Boolean, disabled, that is false. So I think the Boolean data value is very important to, and will be very useful in understanding these data formats. Then we have IPv4 address, IPv4 address. Then we have this. That's a list, all right? Beginning of a list. Then we have our IP address and our mask, our subnet mask. Then this is the end of our list. Then we have closing, closing, closing using those braces. Once you open here, you have to close here. Once you open, where is another one? Once you open here, you have to close somewhere. Once you open here, you have to close somewhere. So this is the basics of JSON. So this is a representation from an iOS output, probably showrun. How is it represented in JSON data format? It's as easy as this. Right, let's continue. I'm sure as Jamaica sense, type define automation, all these things, how it will work. Right, JSON syntax rules. There are some of the characteristics, these are some of the characteristics of JSON. It uses a hierarchical structure and contains nested values. Nested values, objects within another object. It uses braces to hold objects and square brackets to hold arrays. So braces, I think braces was correct. So braces, they are used to hold objects. So if this is the beginning of a brace, this one, this is the close. In between here is an object. Braces are used to hold objects. Then we have square brackets used to hold arrays. Our square bracket right here, and this is our array here. A list of information, all right? Then we have each data is written in key value pairs. Data is written in key value pairs. So this is a key, this is a value. This is a key, this is a value. Key, value. This is a key, this is a key, I mean, this is a value. This is a key, this is a value. And all key pair values, key value pairs are separated by this colon. That is JSON for you. They are separated by this colon. So those are the rules, syntax rules for JSON. With JSON, the data known as an object is one or more key pair values enclosed in braces. The syntax for a JSON object includes, we have keys must be strings within double quotation marks. So keys, they can only be strings, not numbers. Strings with quotes. Values must be valid, values must be a valid JSON data type. For my data types up, we have not my strings. My strings is basically a number of characters. My letters, if I can say, that's a string. And ring my quotes. So if I go to this example, right here we have a string. This is a string. Nema quotes. Wide area network, that's a string. A number of characters, words, right? Then we have my numbers, right? My numbers. Here we don't have my numbers, but I can add something here. I can say, I can define the speed. Probably I create another, let's create another, or let me add it here, right in between here. Let's add the speed. Let's add another key pair value, speed of the interface. Let's say speed of the interface is 1000. Right. There is a difference between a number as a data value. This is a number. This is a string right here. Okay, so a string, what retains? It's something that is written. That is a string. Okay, so a number, what retains is a number. Two different things. So Kanapanama codes, that's a string. Kanapasinama codes, that's a number. So this one is a number right here. And this one is a string. I think maybe not so important, but just important to know. Right. So my values, we have my string, we have defined my string, anengana my codes, my numbers, anengasina my codes, arrays, anotangane ama brackets are. Right? That's an array. Boolean, true or false. Now, what is now? So with now, that is a it basically represents absence of any value. Absence of any value. No codes, no nothing. Just now, absent of any value. You can have a key or a variable which is now, which has nothing inside. That's a variable. Right. Then we have values can also be another object. So this is a nested. These are nested. Just a minute. Okay. So I was saying you can have values in another object, and this is what we call nested values. Values in another object. For example, like I said, this is beginning of an object, ending of an object, but we have another object within another object. That is a nested value. Right. What else? White spaces, keys and values are separated by a colon. We pass that. Multiple key pair values within an object are separated by commas. Right. Here, this is a key pair value separated by a comma, another comma, another comma, right? Another comma, key pair value. But panap, hapana comma, because ndo pari kuperera object redu being closed by this one. So panoperera object, you don't have a comma, but in between to separate key pair values, pane makoma anenge aripo, right? Then white space is not significant. With JSON, white spaces are not significant. It means you can ignore. When you talk of my white spaces, my empty spaces, if I can say, these are white spaces. Yeah, they should be something right here, right? They can be ignored with JSON, which is not the same thing with, for example, YAML, because those white spaces represent something. And we'll talk of indentation with those white spaces. JSON rules, right? Uh, Okay, what other rules do we have? At times, a key may contain more than one value. This is known as an array. an array in JSON is an ordered list of values. Characteristics of arrays, we have the key followed by a colon and a list value enclosed in square brackets. The array is an ordered list of values. Array can contain multiple value types, including strings, numbers, Boolean, object, or another array inside the array. Each value in an array is separated by a comma. Right, this is an example of an array. Right, it's basically a list. Let's say, for example, today some interfaces on a route and my interfaces 3. I want to make a list of all my my IP addresses of those interfaces. So instead of having separate values, separate key pair values, in a list. And how do I do that? I start by opening my square brackets, and this is the closing, right? Then within my square brackets, while I have an object defined which defines an IP address of an interface, separated by a comma, and another IP address, separated by a comma, another IP address of an interface, no comma because on the and that defines an array, a list of values. Right. Then moving to YAML data format. Like I said, what is important in understanding my data formats at this stage is not the programming side of things. No, it's just understanding kuti kana wakatarisa something, which format is it? Ndikatarisa mabraces ayo, ndotoziva kuti JSON. Ndikatarisa zvimwe pasina mabraces, pasina anything, ndotoziva kuti ndo YAML yangu. Ndikaona pane matags, ndotoziva kuti ndo XML. Pama data formats, that is what is important at this stage, even for your exams. Right. YAML is another type of human readable data format used by applications for storing, transferring. All of them, they are used for storing, transferring, and reading data, by the way. Some of the characteristics, it is like JSON. The only difference ndeyekuti imwe nema commas, nema brackets, nema codes, imwe haina. It is a minimalist format, right? Making it easy to read and write. It uses indentation. And the use of indentation, it means my white spaces, they are no longer being ignored. To define its structures without the use of brackets and commas. Right. So if I take a look at these two data formats, so this is a representation in JSON. And here we have YAML. And I think things to note. My brackets are passing my braces. They are no longer there. The colon, which separating my key pair values, is still there, but my quotes are passing. All right. My quotes are passing. Everything else is the same. Right. Then pan up. We have indentation. How do I define indentation? You can see my akapinda mukati bichana. Instead of being in line with this my IP addresses, akapinzwa mukati bichana. Then is indentation. Zvinoreva kuseparate. Here we are separating. I know kuti ndikapinda mukati pane ma, is that a dash, right? Pane ma dash like this. Kutangwa kwe list. It represents, it's a hyphen. Separating each element in a list. Kutanga kwe list. And this hyphen is separating a list. So kuno tinema brackets. How do I separate ku JSON? Tinema braces, I mean. My braces are nema comma separating two key pair values, two objects in this case. Braces, comma separating another object. Kunok, we don't have my braces, we don't have my commas. So how do we separate them? We have my hyphen to separate. So this is an array. This is how you define an array in XML. So different rules. This one is more minimalist, I think more readable as well. We just have to know how to use for example, your white spaces, indentation. When you're actually programming, I think it makes much more sense. Right. So this is the difference between JSON and YAML. All right. Let's move to the last one, XML data format. This one, it looks a bit complicated on the eye, but like I said, to the computer, same difference. Very easy. This one makes use of this tag here, right? One more type of human readable data format used to store, transfer, read data by applications. Some of the characteristics, it is like HTML, it is self-descriptive, it encloses data within a related set of tags. This will be very important. So it encloses data within a related set of tags. If you look at it, comparison between JSON and XML, same difference. So we started with tag, data, tag. So this is sort of the format that it uses. You open with a tag, then you have your data, which is the information that you're trying to send. Then you have your tag. So if you take note of Patrick Tangira, this is the tag, opening a tag here, which is this one. And this is the closing, which means Jesus packed up is our data for a start, right? Then we have an object. Then we have a key pair value. How do we define a key pair value? Kunok is not being separated by a colon, but it uses this same format as well. So this is the tag name and adding of the tag name, and the data is in between. Data redo, Giga Ethernet. Description, wide area network. Enabled, a bit repetitive to us humans. True. Address, then you have your data in between panel. So this is XML data format. I think separating them, understanding with what is the difference between them, eye test, Wango Tarisa is very easy. One in my braces, in my brackets, in my comma, in my quotes, the other one are in the last one in my tags.